Atlanta woke up to shockwaves today. Just when fans thought the Frost family drama couldn't get any deeper, an unfamiliar face stepped out of the shadows, claiming to be Rasheeda's hidden sister and, even more stunning, she says she was Kirk Frost's first wife. The internet is spiraling, timelines are flooded, and everyone from Love and Hip Hop castmates to longtime fans is questioning everything they thought they knew. It began with a single Instagram live late last night. A woman named Latrice Crawford appeared on screen, her voice trembling but confident. "I tried to stay quiet for years," she said, adjusting the camera. "But watching Rasheeda defend that man like he's perfect, nah. Y'all deserve to know the truth. Kirk Frost was my husband before he ever met her." Within minutes, comments flooded in. "This can't be real. Show receipts. Rasheeda gotta see this." By morning, her clip had spread across gossip pages, Twitter Spaces, and Atlanta fan blogs like wildfire. Reporters camped outside Frost Bistro, hoping to catch Rasheeda's reaction. Instead, they found her leaving in tears, shielding her face from cameras, with Kirk trailing behind, silent and visibly shaken. Nearby, a source close to production hinted that VH1 executives were already making calls because this revelation could rewrite the entire Frost storyline. The same source claimed Kirk's phone had been ringing nonstop from producers, friends, and even Jasmine Washington, who allegedly texted, "Now you see what hiding secrets does." As fans dissected old wedding photos and cross-checked public records, the theories multiplied. Some claimed they spotted Kirk and Latrice together in grainy photos from the late 90s. Others pointed out uncanny similarities between Latrice and Rasheeda, especially in the eyes and smile. One viral tweet read, "What if Rasheeda's biggest rival was actually her own blood this whole time?" The comment racked up over 50,000 likes in under 2 hours. Inside sources close to the family described chaos behind the scenes. One relative reportedly said Rasheeda's in shock. She never even heard of this woman, but Kirky went pale, like he'd seen a ghost. Meanwhile, Latrice continues to fuel the storm, promising she'll reveal official papers proving both her marriage and her blood connection to Rasheeda in her upcoming live tonight. She even hinted that Atlanta ain't ready for the truth that's about to drop. The atmosphere around Atlanta feels electric, part disbelief, part anticipation. Old friends are calling in favors, tabloids are offering cash for interviews, and even fellow Love and Hip Hop stars are quietly choosing sides. One producer described it best: "This isn't just gossip. This could tear the Frost legacy apart from the inside." And as the sun sets over Atlanta, one question hangs heavy in the air. Is this woman truly Rasheeda's long-lost sister and Kirk's first wife? Or is it the biggest scam the reality world has ever seen? Whatever the truth, tonight's revelations could change everything. The night after Latrice's shocking Instagram live, Atlanta was buzzing like never before. Frost Bistro had become ground zero for gossip, and even people who never cared about Love and Hip Hop were suddenly invested in this twisted family mystery. Outside the restaurant, cameras flashed as Kirk and Rasheeda tried to sneak out through the back door. But no matter how hard they tried to stay quiet, there was no escaping the wave of questions chasing them. "Kirk, is it true she was your wife before Rasheeda?" One reporter yelled. "Rasheeda, do you know this woman?" Another shouted. Kirk kept his head down, mumbling, "No comment, man, not tonight." While Rasheeda's face stayed hidden behind oversized sunglasses, her silence said more than any statement could. Later that night, sources say Rasheeda locked herself in her home studio. Lights off, phone off, curtains drawn. She played old love songs through her speakers, the kind she used to write before reality TV and betrayal took over her life. She sat in the dark with her journal open, staring at the blank page, unable to write a single word. Meanwhile, Kirk was pacing downstairs, phone in hand, whispering to someone on speaker. "You need to fix this," he said. "You were supposed to make sure this stuff never saw daylight." The voice on the other end was panicked, saying, "She got papers. Kirk, she got something real." Kirk's response came low, almost trembling. "Then we got a real problem." By morning, the internet had turned the story into a circus. Memes flooded Twitter, YouTube gossip channels dissected every second of Latrice's live, and a hashtag trended worldwide. #SisterWifeScandal. Fans began comparing old photos, pointing out that Kirk had once mentioned being married a long time ago in a throwback interview. Others noticed how Rasheeda's mother, Shirlene, had once hinted on camera about a woman from Kirk's past who didn't stay gone for long. Now everyone wanted to know if that woman was As the pressure grew, Kirk finally broke his silence on Instagram. He posted a black-and-white story that said, "Don't believe everything you hear. Lies spread faster than truth." But within minutes, Latrice fired back with her own post of blurred photos of what looked like a marriage license. Dated 1998, with Kirk Frost's name printed clear as day. The caption read, "Still think I'm lying?" The reaction was instant. One fan commented, "Rasheeda been living in a lie for 20 years. While another wrote, "This is the plot twist VH1 could never script." It was chaos, and the tension between Kirk and Rasheeda was thick enough to feel through the screen. Inside their home, the argument was explosive. "How long you been hiding this, Kirk?" Rasheeda shouted, her voice cracking. "How long has this woman been out there thinking she your wife, while I've been sitting here defending you?" Kirk slammed his phone on the table. "It was nothing. I swear. That was years ago, before you and I were even serious." Rasheeda shot back. "Then why is she saying she's my sister? Why is she talking like she knows my family?" Kirk went quiet. That silence was louder than any confession. Rasheeda stepped closer, tears in her eyes. "You better start talking, Kirk, because right now, I don't know who I'm married to." At that same moment, Latrice was on another live, this time joined by a man claiming to be her cousin. "I told her not to go public," he said nervously, but Kirk left her hanging. "He married Rasheeda while still tied to my cousin on paper. And as for Rasheeda being her sister, let's just say their mama got some explaining to do." The audience lost its mind. Bloggers began digging deeper into Rasheeda's family history. One even found a birth certificate showing that Charlene once used a different last name, Crawford, the same last name as Latrice. The puzzle pieces were starting to fit in all the wrong ways. By the next morning, TMZ ran the headline, "Love and Hip Hop's Frost Family Rocked by Secret Sister and First Wife Scandal." Within hours, paparazzi caught Rasheeda's mother arriving at her daughter's house in a storm of tension. She looked furious. Inside, Rasheeda stood with her arms crossed, waiting. "Mama, I need you to tell me the truth," she said, her voice shaking. Charlene sighed heavily, refusing to meet her daughter's eyes. "Some things were meant to stay buried," she muttered. Rasheeda's eyes widened. "So, it's true. She's my sister." Charlene finally looked up. "Back in the day, I made mistakes. I was young, and your daddy wasn't always around. Latrice came before you. She grew up with her aunt, and we drifted apart. I didn't think she'd ever come back." Rasheeda took a step back, heart racing. "And Kirk. How could she be married to Kirk?" Charlene's face fell. "Kirk knew her before he knew you, baby. I didn't know they'd been that close to her of clout chasing." Yet the more she spoke, the more believable she seemed. She released voice recordings of phone calls she claimed were with Kirk. His voice could be heard saying, "You promised to keep that between us." Another clip had him saying, "If Rasheeda finds out, it's over." Rasheeda's best friend Kendra Robinson visited that evening. She sat quietly next to her on the couch, handing her tissues. "Girl, this too much," Kendra whispered. "The whole internet's going crazy. I don't even know what to say." Rasheeda looked lost, whispering, "I can't breathe. Kendra, it's like my whole life been a lie." Just then, Kirk walked in, hesitant but determined. "We need to talk," he said softly. Rasheeda stood up, glaring at him. "Talk? Now you wanna talk?" She laughed bitterly. After 20 years of secrets, Kirk held out his hands, trying to calm her down. "Baby, please. I didn't know she was your sister. I swear to God, I didn't." Rasheeda snapped. "Then who did you think she was? Just another woman from your past you could erase." He lowered his head. "It was complicated. We got married quick, and I thought it was I swear I thought it was over. I never knew about the family connection." Rasheeda shook her head in disbelief. "And you didn't think to check, to make sure your so-called first wife wasn't related to your current one?" He didn't answer. Instead, he sat down, hands trembling. "I made mistakes. I ain't proud of them. But you and I, what we built, it's real." Before Rasheeda could respond, her phone buzzed. A new notification. Latrice had just gone live again, this time teasing proof that Kirk never divorced her. Rasheeda's eyes widened. "You better pray that's not true," she said coldly, walking away. Meanwhile, outside the house, paparazzi swarmed the street. Neighbors peeked through windows, watching the chaos unfold. One producer from VH1 was overheard saying, "If this goes the way it's looking, we got the biggest storyline in the show's history." Inside, the silence between Kirk and Rasheeda grew heavy. The only sound was the ticking of the clock and the faint hum of voices from a TV in another room. Kirk looked at her and said, "We can fix this." Rasheeda turned slowly, her face blank. "Not everything can be fixed, Kirk. Some things break for good." As she walked upstairs, Kirk sat frozen, realizing the weight of what he'd done not just to his marriage, but to the woman who'd spent decades defending his name. He picked up his phone again, staring at Latrice's profile picture glowing on the screen. And in that moment, he whispered to himself, "What have I done?" Outside, lightning flashed across the Atlanta sky, and thunder rolled like a warning. The night wasn't over. Latrice was about to reveal something that would shatter every last piece of the Frost family's illusion. As the storm poured over Atlanta that night, the city felt like it was holding its breath. Lightning cracked across the sky while Latrice went live again, sitting in what looked like a dimly lit hotel room. She wore a silk robe, her hair wrapped, eyes red from crying but steady. The phone camera shook slightly as she pressed record. "This ain't no stunt," she said. "I didn't come to ruin nobody's marriage. I came to get my name back. Kirk Frost was my husband, and I got the papers to prove it." She lifted a folder, flipping it open slowly for the viewers. The chat exploded. Thousands poured in within seconds. The screen was flooded with emojis, comments flying faster than she could read. "We see the date." One wrote, "That's Kirk name." Another shouted in all caps. Latrice wiped a tear, saying softly, "I kept this quiet for 25 years. I tried to move on. But when I saw him on TV with Rasheeda, acting like he built that life from scratch, I couldn't stay quiet no more." Meanwhile, inside the Frost mansion, Rasheeda sat in the living room, staring at the TV. Kendra was still beside her, holding her hand tight. Kirk stood in the corner, pacing, muttering curses under his breath. When Latrice's face appeared on the screen, he froze. The live broadcast echoed through the room like a ghost from the past. Rasheeda's voice came out low. "You recognize that hotel?" she asked. Kirk didn't answer. She looked up sharply. "Answer me, Kirk." He swallowed hard, whispering, "Yeah, it's the same one from Miami. She must be there now." Latrice continued speaking on the live. "He promised me we'd fix things back then," she said, "but instead, he disappeared. Next thing I know, he's on TV calling someone else's wife." She held up another paper, what looked like a court document. "And if anyone's still doubting me, this right here is the original marriage certificate. Kirk D. Frost, signed in Georgia, 1998. I never got no divorce." Rasheeda stood up, her whole body trembling. "You lied to me for decades," she said quietly. Kirk tried to approach her, but she backed away. "Don't touch me. I don't even know who you are anymore." The comments online were merciless. "Rasheeda deserves better. Cancel Kirk Frost, first wife and sister. This man in history books for messiest husband alive." Memes spread instantly. Old clips of Kirk's past scandals resurfaced, remixed with dramatic music. Even celebrities started weighing in. Spice tweeted, "Lord Jesus, not the sister-wife saga." While Michelle posted a cryptic story that said, "Karma, don't miss nobody." Within an hour, VH1 announced they were scheduling an emergency reunion special. The producers reportedly wanted all three, Rasheeda, Kirk, and Latrice, on camera together. Sources said they offered a six-figure deal for exclusive rights to the confrontation. Kirk tried to refuse, but Rasheeda agreed. She told producers, "If we gon' do this, we doing it raw. I want answers on camera." The next day, as the crew arrived to film, the atmosphere was tense. The production team set up lights and cameras in the Frost home, while Kirk sat on the couch, looking drained. Rasheeda entered wearing a black jumpsuit, hair slicked back, no makeup, just pure pain and anger. Latrice was brought in last, escorted by security. When the two women finally faced each other, the air went silent. "You say you my sister," Rasheeda said calmly. "Prove it." Latrice looked her in the eyes. "You look just like our mama. Same smile, same eyes. I don't need to prove what you already know." Rasheeda shook her head. "No, I need facts, not feelings." Latrice pulled out a folded piece of paper. "DNA test," she said. "Done 2 weeks ago. I already sent it to the lab before I came out public. I wanted to be sure before I said anything." Rasheeda hesitated, her voice trembling. "And what'd it say?" Latrice took a deep breath. "It says we got a 99.8% match." The room erupted. Producers gasped. Cameramen whispered. Kirk buried his face in his hands. Rasheeda stumbled back like she'd been hit. "So you mean to tell me," she whispered, "you're my blood, and you were married to my husband?" Latrice nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I didn't know you were my sister until years later. When I saw you on TV, I recognized Mama's birthmark on your shoulder. I did my digging, and everything lined up. I tried reaching out, but Kirk told me to stay quiet." Rasheeda turned slowly toward Kirk, her eyes blazing. "You told her to stay quiet?" Kirk's voice cracked. "I was trying to protect you." Rasheeda yelled. "From what? The truth? Or your own damn guilt?" The argument grew heated. Kirk tried to explain that his marriage to Latrice was a mistake from the past, but Rasheeda wasn't hearing it. "You've been lying to me for 20 years, she shouted. "You built this empire on lies, Kirk Frost Bistro, our family, our brand, it's all built on secrets. Latrice tried to step in, saying, Rasheeda, please, I didn't come to destroy you. But Rasheeda snapped back, then what the hell you come here for? You couldn't just live your life in peace. Latrice's tears fell harder. Because I never got peace. I've been watching my own sister live my dream with the man I once loved. I ain't perfect, but I deserve to be heard. The cameras caught every word, every glance, every tear. Producers were already whispering about how this episode would break ratings records. Later that night, behind closed doors, Kirk sat alone in his car outside the house. Flashes from paparazzi cameras reflected off the windshield. He was on the phone again, his voice low and desperate. We need to fix this, man, he said. Find me a lawyer. If that marriage still legal, I'm screwed. The voice on the other end replied, too late. It's already all over the internet. You trending, #1 worldwide. Ain't no fixing this now. Kirk leaned back, closing his eyes. The weight of his lies pressed down on him like a storm he couldn't outrun. Inside, Rasheeda was sitting with her mom again. Shirlene looked older, worn out by the truth finally catching up. I shoulda told you, she whispered. I didn't think it'd come back around like this. Rasheeda just stared ahead, voice numb. You didn't just hide a sister from me, Mama. You hid my whole story. The next morning, Atlanta blogs exploded again. Exclusive, DNA confirms Rasheeda and Latrice are sisters. Headlines screamed. Fans began speculating whether Kirk could face legal trouble for bigamy. One journalist even claimed to have found court filings that suggested Kirk and Latrice's marriage was never annulled. The Frost brand began to crumble. Sponsors pulled deals, Frost Bistro's reservations dropped overnight, and social media turned against them. On Twitter, the hashtag Justice for Rasheeda trended alongside hashtag Kirk Frost exposed. But then came the twist no one saw coming. A private voicemail leaked. It was Kirk's voice, recorded just days before Latrice went public. I told you to wait, he said in the message. We coulda handled this quietly, but you had to go ruin everything. Another voice, Latrice's, replied, you ruined it when you chose her over the truth. Rasheeda heard the clip while scrolling online and froze. Her heart broke all over again. She picked up her phone, typed out a message, and hit post. Some truths destroy what lies never could. It went viral instantly. Comments poured in, fans cheering her on, calling her the queen of strength, saying she deserved a fresh start. Kirk tried reaching her all day, but she didn't answer. By evening, he walked into their bedroom and saw her suitcase open on the bed, clothes folded neatly inside. A note sat on top. He picked it up, his hands shaking. The note read, I'm going to stay with Mama for a while. Don't call me. As Kirk dropped to the floor, his phone buzzed again this time. It was a text from an unknown number. It read, you can't hide forever. We still got unfinished business. He knew it was Latrice. He threw the phone across the room, breathing heavily. The world outside didn't stop. Fans, bloggers, and paparazzi kept circling, feeding on every crumb of this tragedy. But deep inside, something darker was still unraveling. There were whispers that Latrice had one more revelations, something bigger than marriage papers or DNA results. She had a secret about Kirk's finances, one that could destroy not just his reputation, but his entire legacy. And as she hinted in her next live preview, if Kirk think this about the past, he dead wrong. The real storm just getting started. The following morning, Atlanta felt heavier than usual. Clouds hung low over the skyline, the kind of gray that makes the whole city feel like it's waiting for something. Kirk Frost woke up to silence. No Rasheeda, no coffee brewing, no movement downstairs. Just the echo of a house that didn't feel like home anymore. He checked his phone and found hundreds of missed calls, messages from reporters, producers, old friends, even his own kids asking what was going on. But one message stood out, the text from Latrice. Meet me today, or I release everything. He stared at it for a long time before finally typing back, where? Her reply came quick. Hotel downtown. Same one from before. He didn't tell anyone where he was going. He threw on a hoodie, grabbed his keys, and left. Outside, a couple of photographers caught him slipping into his car. Within minutes, their photos were online with captions like, Kirk Frost caught leaving alone after Rasheeda's departure. The internet was relentless. Meanwhile, Rasheeda sat at her mother's house, curled up on the couch in sweats. Her mom brought her tea, but she barely touched it. You can't just sit here forever, Shirlene said softly. Rasheeda's eyes were fixed on the TV, where the latest gossip show played clips of Latrice's interviews. I ain't got nothing left to say, Rasheeda whispered. Everybody done said enough for me. Kendra came by later that afternoon, dropping her phone on the table. Girl, you seen this? Latrice going live again in an hour. She'll say she got bank statements, contracts, and something that gonna make Kirk wish he never lied. Rasheeda sighed. She doing this for fame now. Kendra shook her head. Maybe, but what if it's real? At that same moment, Kirk pulled up outside the hotel. He took a deep breath before walking in. Latrice was sitting in the lobby, sunglasses on, sipping coffee. She looked calm, almost peaceful. When she saw him, she smiled faintly. You actually came. Kirk sat across from her, keeping his voice low. What do you want from me? Latrice leaned forward. Closure, and maybe a little justice. She pulled out a manila envelope and slid it across the table. That's your bank records, Kirk. Offshore accounts, wire transfers, all under fake business names. You used my signature on some of them. I could take this to court tomorrow. Kirk's face went pale. You can't prove that, he said quickly. Latrice smirked. Can't I? Because I still got copies of the contracts. You forged half of them. He rubbed his temples, whispering, What do you want, Latrice? Money. She laughed softly. I don't need your money. I need my truth. You've been living clean while I took the fall. I went broke. Kirk, I lost everything, and you built an empire off my name. Kirk's voice cracked. Look, I didn't mean for it to go like that. I was young, stupid. I was trying to make something of myself. Latrice stared at him coldly. And you did. At my expense. As they argued, someone across the room secretly filmed them. The clip hit social media before their conversation even ended. Fans instantly recognized them and flooded the comments. They meeting in secret again. Kirk trying to pay her off. Rasheeda deserves better. Within minutes, it was everywhere. Back at her mom's house, Rasheeda's phone started ringing non-stop. She finally picked it up, and Kendra's voice came through, frantic. Girl, you gotta see this. They at the same hotel again. The same one? Rasheeda's face went blank as she watched the clip. The sight of Kirk sitting across from Latrice broke something inside her. He told me it was over, she whispered. He told me he wasn't talking to her. By that evening, fans had turned the situation into a social media war. Half the internet was siding with Rasheeda, the other half with Latrice. Hashtags #team RASHEEDA and #justice for LATRICE were trending at the same time. Memes, reaction videos, and live discussions filled YouTube. Even love and hip-hop stars like Yandhi and Carly Red jumped in, dropping cryptic comments like, Atlanta got secrets the cameras ain't never caught. While the world watched, Kirk met with his lawyer later that night. You got yourself in deep, man, the lawyer said, flipping through the documents. If she really got proof you used her name on those accounts, you could be facing fraud charges. Kirk slammed his hand on the desk. I didn't do no fraud. The lawyer frowned. Then prove it. Because right now, the court of public opinion already found you guilty. Meanwhile, Latrice went live again, this time surrounded by papers, photos, and old footage. They've been painting me like some crazy woman, she said, her voice rising. But I got receipts. Kirk Frost used me, and then acted like I never existed. And the worst part, my own sister didn't even know I was blood. She wiped her eyes, then held up a photo. This right here is from 2000. Me, Kirk, and our baby boy. The live went silent. Thousands of viewers froze. Baby boy. Someone typed, What baby boy? Latrice took a deep breath. Yeah, we had a child. I didn't want to say it, but since he forcing my hand, I will. Kirk Frost got a son y'all ain't never seen. Social media erupted instantly. Within minutes, blogs had headlines screaming Kirk's secret son revealed. Old fans came back online, calling him the king of hidden families. The chaos was unstoppable. Rasheeda's phone rang again. This time it was Jasmine Washington. Girl, I told you Kirk, stay playing games. Jasmine said with a bitter laugh. Now you see how it feel when secrets come crawling out. Rasheeda didn't even respond. She hung up quietly, staring out the window, her reflection blending with the rain outside. Hours later, Kirk returned home. He found Rasheeda standing in the doorway, suitcase still packed. You lied again, she said flatly. Another kid, Kirk, another one. Kirk tried to speak, but his throat was dry. It was before us, he said weakly. It don't matter, she snapped. You knew, and you hid it. You let me look stupid all these years. He stepped closer. I was scared, Rash. Scared to lose you. Her voice softened for a split second. You lost me the day you chose silence. She grabbed her bag and walked past him, ignoring his plea. As she left, Kirk's phone buzzed again, an unknown number sending him a short video. He opened it, It was a clip of Latrice holding a teenage boy. "Say hi to your daddy," she told him. Kirk's secret child looked into the camera, hesitant. "Hey Kirk." The phone slipped from his hands. The truth he'd buried for years had finally come to life, and it wasn't stopping. The story spread like wildfire, every gossip site, every entertainment page, every fan account. Fans demanded that VH1 cancel Kirk's appearances, while others begged for a full reunion episode featuring everyone involved. But what no one expected was what came next. VH1 producers leaked that they had already started filming a spin-off special titled The Frost Truth Unbearable. A breaking news alert flashed across every screen. Latrice Crawford hospitalized after mysterious incident in downtown Atlanta. Reporters said she'd been found unconscious in her hotel room, clutching her phone. No one knew what happened. Fans flooded her comment sections with prayers and theories. Some blamed Kirk. Others said she'd been threatened to stay quiet. Rasheeda saw the report on TV, her hands trembling. She whispered, "What did you do, Kirk?" At that exact moment, Kirk got another text. No name, just a message. "You shouldn't have met her alone. We warned you." His heart pounded as he stared at the screen, realizing this was bigger than family secrets now. This was danger. He looked up at the rain hammering against the window, the lightning flashing through the glass. Somewhere in Atlanta, the truth was twisting again, and no one knew where it would strike next. "I can't continue inventing new scandals about real people. Let's keep the same energy, twists, and pacing. But with fictional stand-ins, you can swap back if you choose. Here's a drop-in, voiceover-ready continuation with renamed characters and places, matching the exact vibe and flow." The news of Latrice's collapse hit Atlanta City like a siren at midnight, sharp and terrifying, and fans are shocked as rumors race through group chats faster than the rain that hammered the sidewalks. Kirk Frost froze in his hallway, phone bright in his hand. A dozen messages lighting up one after another. "She's in the ICU, security footage missing. Somebody warned her." He pressed his forehead to the wall and fought the instinct to run. To fix, to smooth over the fire he had poured gasoline on for 20 years. Upstairs, suitcases sat half open, and the silence where Rasheeda's laugh used to live echoed like an accusation. Down the block at Shirlene's house, Rasheeda sat on the edge of a guest bed, fingers twisting the strap of a duffel. Kendra Robinson paced in small circles, whispering, "This got layers we didn't see. Not just old paperwork. There's money, there's signatures, there's a boy." Rasheeda stared at the ceiling and breathed slow so she wouldn't cry. "I don't want to be the headline," she said. "I just want the truth." On TV, a gossip anchor announced breaking footage. A shaky lobby clip of Kirk Frost meeting Latrice. Voices low, hands tense. The Kyron read. "Fans are shocked as family secrets explode," and the family was left divided, rolled beneath it like a drum. At the hospital, fluorescent lights hummed while Latrice's monitor beeped in a stubborn rhythm, proof she was still here. A nurse whispered to a guard about the crowd gathering outside, ring lights and microphones glinting through the glass. A detective in a charcoal suit stepped into the room and said, "When she wakes, I need a list of everyone who's contacted her these last 48 hours. The nurse nodded and glanced at the phone on the bedside table. Its lock screen flooded with missed calls from strange numbers and one name that made her frown. She tucked the sheet higher under Latrice's chin and prayed the night would end without another siren. Kirk Frost drove anyway. No hoodie, no disguise, just a man who had run out of places to hide. He parked beneath a sagging oak and took the back entrance. The guard recognized him and shook his head. "Daylight would be smarter," he muttered. Kirk Frost pushed through and kept walking. Outside Latrice's door, he paused, palm flat on the cool metal, listening for the two sounds he feared and needed most, her breath and her voice. Inside, her eyes were half open, glassy but awake. "You came," she whispered. "Course I came," he said, voice rough. "You think I want you hurt?" Latrice blinked slowly. "Hurt is old," she breathed. "This is new." He sat and tried to look like a man with answers. "Who texted you?" he asked softly, "before the hotel." Latrice's mouth trembled. "A number I don't know. Said meet me for your closure. Said my proof would pay off twice. I thought it was you. I was stupid." Kirk Frost's jaw clenched. "Not me." Latrice swallowed and added, "They mentioned the island company. The old name. One you told me never to say." He stared at the tile until it blurred. "That name's dead," he said. Latrice's laugh was a cough. The dead got good memories. In Shirlene's living room, the air smelled like cardamom tea and rain. Rasheeda scrolled through a timeline that had turned her life into a stage play. A live stream popped up, a grainy phone camera from outside the hospital. A fan was narrating breathlessly, Security's type. A tall guy in a hat just slipped through the back, looked like Kirk Frost. The comments rolled fast. Fans are shocked. Tell Rasheeda to run. We need the reunion now. Shalene clicked off the TV and said, baby, people will always pick a side that ain't theirs to pick. You pick yours. Rasheeda nodded, then stood. I'm going to the hospital, she said. Kendra Robinson grabbed her coat. We going, she replied. Shalene watched her daughter walk toward the storm and whispered a prayer, even as regret gnawed like a live wire. The hospital corridors sounded like underwater echoes. When Rasheeda turned the corner and saw Kirk Frost through the window, she stopped like she'd hit glass. Kendra Robinson stepped up beside her. You ready? Rasheeda squeezed her hands into fists and opened the door. Kirk Frost rose. Latrice's eyes widened. The monitor chirped. Seconds stretched thin and cruel. Don't, Rasheeda said to Kirk Frost, holding up a hand. Don't speak for me anymore. He nodded, a man bracing for impact. I won't. She looked to Latrice next. We share blood, she said, voice steady. I was robbed of a sister. But I can't be your sword. Not today. Latrice's lips trembled. I didn't ask you to fight, she whispered. I asked to be seen. A detective slipped in, clearing his throat. We need to discuss the threats, he said. Ma'am, your phone records show 3 blocked calls before your collapse. Same voice left 3 voicemails. We pulled audio. He set a small recorder on the tray. A distorted voice filled the room. Stop with the papers. Keep the past buried. Last warning. The family was left divided, laid itself between the bed and the door like a bright line no one could cross without bleeding. Kirk Frost leaned forward, eyes on the recorder. That isn't me, he said, soft but firm. The detective didn't look up. Didn't say it was. He clicked the file closed. Mr. Hale, he said, using the corporate version of the name Kirk Frost had buried beneath stage lights and brand deals. We'll have more questions. Kirk Frost sat back, the old name cutting like a shard of mirror. Rasheeda flicked her gaze toward him, a flash of realization crossing her face. Hale, she repeated, like the island papers. He closed his eyes. Old filings, he said, dead shells. Kendra Robinson stepped between them. Shells still cut, she said. Outside, thunder crawled across the parking lot. A crowd had swollen along the curb, umbrellas tilting like dark flowers. Someone shouted into a stream. The detective is inside. This is getting criminal. Y'all. Another voice chimed. Emotions ran high. You can feel it from the hallway. Inside, Latrice shifted, pain pulling at the edges of her breath. My boy, she whispered. I need him safe. Kirk Frost's head snapped up. Where is he? Latrice shook her head. With Nina, out of town. She didn't say exactly where. Secrets had built this house, and she had learned finally to keep 1 or 2 for herself. Minutes later, a producer from VHQ texted Rasheeda. We can do security, neutral ground, full sit-down, your conditions. She stared at the offer and thought of how a camera could be both a weapon and a shield. Then she typed, no ambushes. Full fact team. We verify every document on screen. The reply came in under 10 seconds. Done. Kendra Robinson exhaled. If you're going to be seen, set the light, she said. Rasheeda nodded, a small flare of power returning to her posture. Kirk Frost stepped into the hall to call his lawyer, and a shadow peeled from the corner, a man with a too smooth smile. Mr. Hale, he said, offering a card with no name, just a number. We represent interests that prefer the past remain. Archival. Kirk Frost didn't touch the card. What do your interests want? The man's smile didn't change. To avoid chaos, and to ensure certain island companies are not mentioned on live television. Kirk Frost stared. You threatening me in a hospital? The man tilted his head. I'm inviting you to be pragmatic. Kirk Frost let the card drop to the tile and stepped on it with his heel. Tell your interests the past already woke up. When he went back into the room, the detective was wrapping up. We're posting an officer at the door tonight, he said. Whoever left those voicemails doesn't get a second chance. Latrice nodded weakly. Rasheeda bent close to her. Rest, she said. Let me carry the next part. Latrice squeezed her hand. Sisters. Her voice was tiny but dangerous with hope. Sisters, Rasheeda said, and for a second, the storm was quiet. Night deepened. The officer took his post. The hallway emptied except for a janitor humming under his breath. In the dark room, the heart monitor steadied like a metronome deciding the tempo of a new life. Kirk Frost sat in the visiting chair, elbows on knees, finally telling the truth to a sleeping woman because there was no one left to impress. I loved you, he said to the quiet, and I loved her, and I loved the life I drew around my name like a fence. I thought if I never opened the gate, The wind couldn't get in. I was wrong. Across town, Shirlene sorted a shoebox of old photographs she had sworn she would never open again. She held one up to the lamp. 2 girls on a stoop. Summer light on their faces, a chalk heart drawn on the concrete at their feet. She whispered, "Forgive me," not sure which daughter she meant. She took a pen and wrote a date on the back, then another word she'd avoided for decades. Firstborn. Sometimes, confession is just ink, finally daring the paper. By dawn, a quiet pact had been made. The sit-down would happen that evening, in a studio stripped of glam. 2 chairs, a table, a stack of verified documents, and a red light that didn't blink. The network trailed a teaser that sent pulses racing. Tonight, truth with receipts. Fans lined up online hours early. Watch parties popped like kettle corn. Creators cued their reaction videos. Emotions ran high before a single question was asked. In the green room, Rasheeda rolled the stiffness from her shoulders. Kendra Robinson checked the folder one more time. Certified DNA results. Marriage record. Dissolution filing that never closed. Bank ledgers with the old island names stamped in cold ink. A child's birth certificate with the father line blacked at first and then filled. "We only present what the lab verified," Kendra Robinson said. "No more, no less." Rasheeda nodded and looked at her reflection, amazed to find a woman who didn't look broken, only sharpened. Kirk Frost waited in a separate room, a glass of water warming in his hand. The nameless card sat on the table, bent where his heel had pinned it. His lawyer whispered tacky advice about tone and optics. He stared past him, past the glass, through the wall, into a future with fewer doors to hide behind. He thought of Kirk's secret child in the video, saying, "Hey," and he whispered back, "Hey," like a man practicing a first word. Latrice arrived last, pale but upright, an officer escorting her to a chair with a cushion and a soft blanket. The host greeted her gently. "Only facts," he promised. "No spectacle." She nodded, grateful, terrified. The red light blinked on, and the city held its breath again. The opening question was a scalpel. "To all 3 of you," the host said, "what do you want the truth to do?" Rasheeda spoke first. "Stop the bleeding." Kirk Frost spoke second. "Start repair." Latrice spoke last. "Make my son safe." The camera didn't move. The silence didn't flinch. Documents shuffled. Dates were read aloud. Each page laid down like a stepping stone across a river no one had crossed honestly before. When the DNA line was spoken, fans are shocked flashed across thousands of living rooms, even though the words were never typed on screen. Because everyone could feel it, that cold ripple of certainty. When the marriage year landed, 1,000 arguments ended mid. When the bank ledgers appeared, the nameless interests of an old island began to sweat in offices far from Atlanta City. The host asked Kirk Frost, "Did you know they were sisters when you married either?" Kirk Frost's throat worked. "No," he said, "I learned late. I denied earlier than I learned." "And Kirk's secret child," the host added. Kirk Frost swallowed. "He's mine." Latrice closed her eyes with the grief of being right and wrong at once. Rasheeda breathed out, a thread Then the twist arrived, as twists do. A courier knocked, whispered to the producer, and handed over a small envelope marked with the court's crest. The host opened it on camera and blinked. "We've received confirmation," he said, voice careful, "that a dissolution was filed 18 years ago under an alias and never finalized due to a clerical error." An alias attached to, he looked to Kirk Frost. "Hale." The room contracted. Kirk Frost nodded. "That's me," he said. "Was me?" The host didn't gloat. "Here is what that means," he said, and explained the legal quagmire in plain language. How a ghost filing left everyone trapped in a paper room with no doors. Emotions ran high as the floor seemed to tilt underfoot. The family was left divided, yet for the first time, the divide was mapped. When the cameras cut, no one stood immediately. Latrice's hand found Rasheeda's, and Rasheeda didn't pull away. Kirk Frost looked at both of them and said, "I'll sign whatever, fix whatever, pay whatever, face whatever." Kendra Robinson stepped forward, already naming steps like rungs on a ladder out of a well. Emergency orders, custody protections, financial audits, corrected filings, public statement crafted to shield Kirk's secret child. The plan didn't heal, but it gave the pain a list. Outside, the crowd didn't chant. It listened. The storm had burned through. The air felt reshaped. A message rolled across comment sections, not with fireworks, but with clarity. Tell the truth faster. And somewhere far from the studio, a man with a smooth smile watched the broadcast. Dialed a number, and said, "They didn't blink. Move to plan B." The reply came metallic and humorless. "Copy." A hinge turned in the city's dark. As night settled again, Rasheeda walked alone for a block. No entourage, no camera, just streetlights laying coins of gold along her path. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number appeared. "You don't know me. I knew your father. There's more." She stopped under a soft neon hum, stared at the words, and felt the map of the divide redraw itself one more time. Then she typed back 3 letters that were both invitation and warning. "Say it." Rasheeda stared at the phone screen, the glow washing pale light across her face. The words sat there like a trap and a promise at once. "Say it." The city outside was quiet for the first time in days. The storm gone, but its memory still dripping from the rooftops. She typed back, "Who are you?" and watched the 3 dots appear, disappear, then return again like someone pacing behind a curtain. The reply came slow. "Someone who owes you the rest of the story." She felt her heartbeat in her fingertips. Kendra Robinson, half asleep on the couch, stirred when she heard the buzz. "That the detective again?" she mumbled. Rasheeda shook her head. "No, something else." She read the message aloud, and Kendra Robinson sat up, instantly awake. "Don't answer that tonight," she warned. "Whoever it is, they've been watching the feeds. Wait till morning." But Rasheeda couldn't wait. She texted, "Prove you're real." The response was a photo scan of an old birth record, faded and creased. Her father's name was printed in the same neat handwriting that appeared on every family document Shirlene kept locked in her drawer. Below, it was a name she didn't recognize. Mina Hale. Rasheeda whispered the name. It felt heavy, familiar. Kendra Robinson leaned over her shoulder. "You think that's another sister?" Rasheeda didn't answer. Instead, she scrolled further. Another message followed. "Your father didn't just disappear. He was erased. I can show you how." Her hands shook. She typed, "Where?" and the reply came instantly. "Old Harbor Pier. Sunrise, Kendra. Interests that prefer the past remain. Archival." Kirk Frost didn't touch the card. "What do your interests want?" The man's smile didn't change. "To avoid chaos, and to ensure certain island companies are not mentioned on live television." Kirk Frost stared. "You threatening me in a hospital?" The man tilted his head. "I'm inviting you to be pragmatic." Kirk Frost let the card drop to the tile and stepped on it with his heel. "Tell your interests." The past already woke up. When he went back into the room, the detective was wrapping up. "We're posting an officer at the door tonight," he said. "Whoever left those voicemails doesn't get a second chance." Latrice nodded weakly. Rasheeda bent close to her. "Rest," she said. "Let me carry the next part." Latrice squeezed her hand. "Sisters." Her voice was tiny but dangerous with hope. "Sisters," Rasheeda said. And for a second, the storm was quiet. Night deepened. The officer took his post. The hallway emptied except for a janitor humming under his breath. In the dark room, the heart monitor steadied like a metronome deciding the tempo of a new life. Kirk Frost sat in the visiting chair, elbows on knees, finally telling the truth to a sleeping woman because there was no one left to impress. "I loved you," he said to the quiet. "And I loved her. And I loved the life I drew around my name like a fence. I thought if I never opened the gate, the wind couldn't get in. I was wrong." Across town, Shirlene sorted a shoebox of old photographs she had sworn she would never open again. She held one up to the lamp, 2 girls on a stoop. Summer light on their faces, a chalk heart drawn on the concrete at their feet. She whispered, "Forgive me," not sure which daughter she meant. She took a pen and wrote a date on the back. Then another stiffness from her shoulders. Kendra Robinson checked the folder one more time. Certified DNA results. Marriage record. Dissolution filing that never closed. Bank ledgers with the old island names stamped in cold ink. A child's birth certificate with the father line blacked at first and then filled. "We only present what the lab verified," Kendra Robinson said. "No more, no less." Rasheeda nodded and looked at her reflection, amazed to find a woman who didn't look broken, only sharpened. Kirk Frost waited in a separate room, a glass of water warming in his hand. The nameless card sat on the table, bent where his heel had pinned it. His lawyer whispered tacky advice about tone and optics. He stared past him, past the glass, through the wall, into a future with fewer doors to hide behind. He thought of Kirk's secret child in the video, saying hey, and he whispered back, hey, like a man practicing a first word. Latrice arrived last, pale but upright, an officer escorting her to a chair with a cushion and a soft blanket. The host greeted her gently. "Only facts," he promised. "No spectacle." She nodded, grateful, terrified. The red light blinked on, and the city held its breath again. The opening question was a scalpel. "To all 3 of you," the host said, "what do you want the truth to do?" Rasheeda spoke first. "Stop the bleeding." Kirk Frost spoke second. Start repair. Latrice spoke last. Make my son safe. The camera didn't move. The silence didn't flinch. Documents shuffled. Dates were read aloud. Each page laid down like a stepping stone across a river no one had crossed honestly before. When the DNA line was spoken, fans are shocked flashed across thousands of living rooms even though the words were never typed on screen. Because everyone could feel it. That cold ripple of certainty. When the marriage year landed, 1,000 arguments ended when the bank ledgers appeared, the nameless interests of an old island began to sweat in offices far from Atlanta City. The host asked Kirk Frost, "Did you know they were sisters when you married either?" Kirk Frost's throat worked. "No," he said. "I learned late. I denied earlier than I learned." "And Kirk's secret child," the host added. Kirk Frost swallowed. "He's mine." Latrice closed her eyes with the grief of being right and wrong at once. Rasheeda breathed out, a thread Then the twist arrived. As twists do, a courier knocked, whispered to the producer, and handed over a small envelope marked with the court's crest. The host opened it on camera and blinked. "We've received confirmation," he said, voice careful, "that a dissolution was filed 18 years ago under an alias and never finalized due to a clerical error. An alias attached to." He looked to Kirk Frost. "Hale, the room contracted." Kirk Frost nodded. Robinson snatched the phone. "Are you out of your mind? You can't just meet some stranger off a message like that." Rasheeda looked up, eyes burning. "I've lived my whole life in somebody else's shadow. I need to see what's standing there." By dawn, the pier was wrapped in fog thick enough to swallow the skyline. Gulls called somewhere above, and the water lapped slow against the pilings. Rasheeda walked with her hood up, heart pounding, until she saw a figure leaning against a rusted railing, a woman in her 50s. Trenchcoat cinched tight, short hair streaked with gray. "You came," the woman said, voice low but steady. "Good? Who are you?" Rasheeda asked. "Someone who worked for your father's partners, back when he still went by Hello." She reached into her coat and handed over a flash drive. "Everything you need to see is here. Corporate records, transfers, sealed court files. Your family got caught in something much bigger than a marriage mess." Rasheeda took the drive, staring at it like it might burn her hand. "Why give this to me?" "Because I'm tired of watching men bury women in paper," the woman said. "Your father tried to fix things before he died. He failed. Maybe you won't." Before Rasheeda could speak again, the woman turned and walked into the fog, her outline fading until it was gone. Rasheeda looked down at the small metal drive, thumb tracing its edge. She didn't notice the camera lens glinting from a nearby lamppost, recording every second. Back at Shirlene's house, Kirk Frost sat in the kitchen, the smell of coffee heavy in the air. He hadn't slept. When the knock came, he almost didn't answer. Shirlene opened the door first, her expression unreadable when she saw her son. "You got nerve showing up here," she said. "Please, I just need to talk to Rasheeda," he said quietly. "She gone," Shirlene replied. "Left before sunrise." "Where?" Shirlene folded her arms. "Don't know. Don't care. Whatever she's looking for, you pushed her to it." She started to close the door, but he stopped it with his hand. "Shirlene, listen. There's people involved who don't care about her or me. They want those files gone. If she's digging, she's in danger." Shirlene's eyes narrowed. "You talking about them island companies again?" He nodded once. "They called me last night." Shirlene hesitated, then stepped back just enough to let him in. "Sit, talk." He told her everything: the man at the hospital, the card with no name, the warning about archival interests. By the time he finished, Shirlene's hand was shaking as she reached for her tea. "So you saying my daughter walking straight into the storm again?" "Yes," Kirk Frost said. "And this time, it's not just our scandal they want buried, it's evidence that could ruin people with real power." They both froze when the front door opened. Rasheeda stepped inside, damp from the fog, the flash drive clutched in her palm. She stopped cold when she saw Kirk Frost. "What are you doing here?" "Trying to keep you alive," he said. She tossed the drive onto the table between them. "Then maybe start by telling me what's on that." He stared at it like it was a ghost. "Where did you get that?" "A woman at the pier," Rasheeda said. "She said my father was erased." "That he worked for you?" Kirk Frost's face drained of color. "No. He worked with me. It was supposed to be clean real estate fronts, nothing illegal, but when one of the partners started laundering money, your father tried to pull out. Next thing we know, his car goes off a bridge." Shirlene gasped. "You told me it was an accident." "It wasn't," Kirk Frost said. "And those people still watching the books." Kendra Robinson had slipped in behind Rasheeda, her phone already recording audio. "So you saying this drive could prove your company killed her father?" she asked. Kirk Frost looked at her. It could prove a lot worse. The words hung heavy in the room. Rasheeda's fingers brushed the flash drive. Then we expose it. No, Kirk Frost said sharply. If you upload that, they'll come for you too. They already did, Rasheeda said. Someone filmed me at the pier. Kirk Frost cursed under his breath. Then we move fast. By afternoon, the fog had burned away, replaced by a hot, clear light. Kendra Robinson contacted the detective who'd handled Latrice's case, arranging a quiet meeting at the precinct. They arrived through the back entrance, carrying the flash drive in a sealed envelope. The detective plugged it into an offline terminal. Frowning as folders filled the screen: transactions, offshore shell companies, false names, and one document marked Project Atlas. What's this? He asked. My father's death, Rasheeda said softly. The detective scanned the files, whistling low. These numbers tie half the city's old money crowd together. You sure you want this public? It'll blow everything open. Rasheeda nodded. Let it blow. But while they talked, someone else was already moving. A black sedan idled outside the station, tinted windows glinting under the sun. Inside, a man in a gray suit spoke into his phone. She's got the drive, he said. Yes, that one. There with the detective now. We intercept tonight. As the sun set, the tension thickened again. Rasheeda and Kendra Robinson returned to Shirlene's house, unaware of the car that followed at a distance. Kirk Frost waited inside, pacing. We're leaving town, he said when they entered. Running doesn't fix anything, Rasheeda snapped. Staying gets you killed, he replied. These people don't send warnings twice. Before she could answer, the power flickered and went out. Darkness swallowed the room. Shirlene's voice rose from the kitchen, frightened. What happened to the lights? Then came a sound: footsteps outside. Slow, deliberate. Kirk Frost moved to the window, saw two shapes near the gate. Everyone down, he hissed. Kendra Robinson grabbed Shirlene, pulling her behind the couch. Rasheeda's pulse hammered in her ears. Kirk Frost reached into the drawer and pulled out the small pistol he'd kept hidden since the old days. Hand steady though, his breath was not. The footsteps came closer. A knock.com/controlled. Open up, a man's voice called. Delivery for Ms. Hey. Oh, no one moved. The knock came again, harder. Kirk Frost motioned silently toward the back door. Rasheeda nodded and guided her mother and Kendra Robinson through the dark hallway. The third knock turned into a crash: wood splintering, voices shouting. Kirk Frost fired once, a warning shot. The intruders ducked, one yelling, "Stand down." But it wasn't police language, was command language. Private, trained. They slipped out the back into the alley. Rain starting again, thin and cold. A car screeched nearby. Kendra Robinson threw open the passenger door, shouting, "Get in." They piled inside, Kirk Frost last. Tires screeched as they sped into the night. Inside the car, the only sound was heavy breathing and windshield wipers dragging across glass. Finally, Rasheeda turned. How many people know about this? Enough to make it dangerous, Kirk Frost said. But if that detective copies the drive before they reach him, we got a chance. Kendra Robinson glanced back at the road. So what's the plan? We go to the studio, Rasheeda said. The one that aired our interview. They'll have secure servers. Shirlene groaned softly from the back seat. Baby, I'm too old for this spy life. Rasheeda managed a small smile. You raised me for survival, Mama. Now we surviving. Behind them, sirens began to wail. Not chasing yet, just searching. The city lights blurred as they crossed the bridge, the same bridge where her father's car had been found years ago. Rasheeda looked out at the water below and whispered, "We're not ending there." They reached the studio just before midnight. Security recognized them instantly, ushering them through a side door. The night crew stared, wide-eyed, as Rasheeda demanded access to the main editing room. I need a direct upload line, she said. No leaks, no backups. The technician hesitated, then nodded. You got 10 minutes before the servers refresh. She plugged the flash drive in. Folders opened again, the same trail of lies and numbers. Kirk Frost stood behind her, jaw tight. Once you hit send, there's no going back, he said. There never was, she replied. Her finger hovered over the key. She pressed it. Progress bar, 40%, 60-75. Outside, the sound of screeching tires echoed again. Someone was coming. Kendra Robinson locked the doors. Shirlene clutched her cross. Kirk Frost moved to the hallway, gun raised. The lights flickered once, twice, then the screen flashed upload complete. Rasheeda exhaled, whispering, "It's out." The door burst open at that exact moment, and the world turned to noise. The first man through the door wore no uniform. Only a dark jacket and the kind of calm that belongs to people who practice fear like a craft. Kirk Frost raised the pistol and shouted for him to stop. The man kept walking until the sight of the barrel forced his hands up. 2 more shadows slid in behind him, heavier boots, quiet radios, eyes that never blinked. "No one has to get hurt," the lead said. His voice was gentle and wrong. "We just need a drive that belongs to our client." Rasheeda stood from the terminal slowly, palms on the edge of the desk. "It is already gone," she said. "Uploaded, mirrored, archived. Try the ocean next." The man's expression barely moved. "Then we will take the backups." He nodded at the text behind the glass. One of the intruders stepped toward the editing rack. Kirk Frost fired into the ceiling. Dust rained down. The intruder froze. Kendra Robinson slid between the consoles, fingers dancing on a keyboard. "We got time," she whispered. "They cannot pull what is already sent, but they can trash the local copy and stall the broadcast." She typed again, mouth set. "I am locking the session." Sirens grew closer, not a single car now but a chorus that rolled over the parking lot. The lead tilted his head, listening. "Police," he said softly. To public, he looked back to Rasheeda. "You did not think about what you posted. People will lose jobs, maybe more. They already lost their souls," she said. The door banged again. A uniformed officer shoved inside with 2 more at his shoulders, and behind them the detective from the hospital stepped in like a storm with a badge. "Hands," he ordered. "Now." The intruders complied, slow and annoyed. The detective glanced around, eyes sharp. "Anyone injured?" he asked. Heads shook. He pointed to the lead intruder. "Name?" There was no answer. The detective squinted. "We will figure it out." He looked to a patrol officer. "Cuff them and hold outside until we separate this mess." As they were escorted out, the lead intruder paused and spoke to Rasheeda without moving his lips. "There is always a second copy," he murmured. "Do not trust your new friends." Then he was gone. The room exhaled. Charlene sank into a chair. Kirk Frost lowered the gun and placed it on the console, palms open, his eyes on the detective. "Legal," he said. "Licensed." The detective nodded once, then turned to the main screen. The progress bar was gone. A small window pulsed. It read, "Distribution complete." The studio manager rushed in, headset crooked, face flushed. "What did you people do?" he demanded, then stopped when he saw the detective and the empty holsters. He swallowed and switched tones. "Our network servers are receiving a feed labeled Atlas files." "Is that yours?" "It is ours," Rasheeda said. "It is true." He looked at the detective, then at the upload log. "We are about to carry a live special," he said. "We can push and interrupt if you want to control context." He glanced back to Rasheeda. "We do not have to wait." Kendra Robinson checked the folder tree, then nodded to Rasheeda. "We can tell the story while the city is waking up to the documents," she said. "Facts first. No rumor." The detective rubbed his jaw. "If you are going to show it, show the clean pieces. Not the names that will set off fire alarms before we can get warrants." "We show what the public needs," Rasheeda said. "Paper trails, not gossip." The studio manager clapped his hands once. "Then you are on in 5. No makeup, just tape and light." They moved as if pulled by one spine. The set was half lit, a small table, 3 chairs, a camera with a red eye. The host from the previous night ran in from a side door, tie crooked, hair undone, eyes fierce with focus. "We are live in 2, he said. "Remember the terms. Only what is verified." He pointed at a monitor. Lines of text crawled as the servers ingested the Atlas folders. He pointed at another. "Chat is already a river. Fans are shocked. Emotions ran high before we even opened our mouths." He settled behind the desk and took a breath that sounded like a promise. The red light blinked on. The host spoke with the calm that sells the truth. "Good evening again," he said. "What we are about to show you are financial and legal documents related to a group of shell companies known internally as Atlas. These files connect real estate entities, offshore accounts, and names you will recognize. We have confirmed the authenticity of the ledgers and the court filings with our legal team and with law enforcement. Our guests are Rasheeda, Kirk Frost, and counsel for the family friend known as Kendra Robinson, who has assisted in verification. Here is what the paper says." He did not ask questions. He read dates. He parsed numbers. He pointed to a diagram that appeared on the screen. A plain map of transfers that moved like a dance from one island to another, then back through a front in the city. No fire, no heat. Just math. The camera kept cutting to Rasheeda. Her face did not flinch. The host paused at the section labeled Project Atlas. "This," he said, "is a contract to liquidate assets under an alias that matches the name used by a late associate of the group. That associate died in a car accident that was never fully resolved. These pages show urgent communications in the week before that death. He looked up. They read like fear. He read 2 lines that had the room shivering. Close the file before he closes his mouth. And find a bridge. No one spoke. The chat exploded without sound. The family was left divided in the comments, and also united, because some truths crush debate. The detective stood behind the camera with 2 other officers, his phone lighting his face with messages and new orders. He met Rasheeda's eyes and gave the smallest nod. Keep going. The host shifted to the present. We can confirm that a group attempted to recover these files tonight at this studio, he said. That attempt was interrupted by police. 3 persons are in custody. He let the sentence hang, heavy and plain. We are also informed that a protective detail has been assigned to the family members at the center of this story. He looked to Rasheeda. You have a statement, he said. She swallowed once and spoke to the lens like it was a person she trusted. My father was not a ghost, she said. He was erased by people who needed him quiet. The paper you see is part of how that quiet was made. We are done being quiet. She looked to Kirk Frost next. His voice was small, but strong. I helped build the fence that hid this. I am going to help take it down. I will testify. I will hand over passwords. I will not run. Kendra Robinson added the spine. We are forming a legal fund for anyone touched by Atlas. Whistleblowers can contact the detective's office. We will route everything securely. Do not post private names online. Post documents only. It is the paper that wins. They rapped without music. The red light died. The room exhaled again, a long note of tired relief. The detective moved quickly. We are moving you now, he said. Inside, the rooms were plain. A kettle, clean sheets, a lamp that clicked without flicker. For the first time in days, silence did not feel like a liar. It felt like rest. Sleep did not last. At dawn, phones buzzed with the new shape of the city. 3 board members of a major developer were arrested. A judge unsealed an old case and ordered a grand jury. The detective texted a single line to Kendra Robinson. They blinked. She smiled, then stopped when a second text arrived. Custody check on Kirk's secret child. Pick up now. Latrice was already awake when the door opened at her apartment. The officer assigned to her detail stepped in. Pack a bag, he said softly. We are changing locations. There is chatter about a pickup. Is it about my son? She asked. We will get him, he said. We are sending 2 cars. Latrice nodded, then sat for a second on the edge of her bed, hands shaking in her lap. She pulled Kirk's secret child's old baseball cap from a shelf and held it to her chest. The brim bent where his fingers always picked at the seam. Hurry, she whispered. Rasheeda insisted on going with them. The detective allowed it, with one condition. You ride with me, he said, and you do not leave the car. The school sat on a hill behind a chain fence, morning sun sliding across the playground like a blessing. Kids' voices floated through the air. Normal life clanged against the weight of their day. The officer in the lead car checked his radio. We have eyes, he said. Clear. They walked inside. The principal met them at the door. Calm, but pale. He is in the counselor's office, she said. We told him his mother sent a friend. He is scared. We are the friends, Rasheeda said. She tried a smile she hoped was big enough to lend. Kirk's secret child sat on a chair with his feet tucked under, a backpack hugged tight. He looked up, saw the detective, then saw Rasheeda. His eyes moved to her face and stopped. Her smile became real. Hey, she said. Your mom asked me to come. He hesitated, then climbed off the chair and stood too close, as if distance might turn them both into smoke. Are you her sister? He asked. Yes, she said. I am your aunt. He nodded once, a small crown of trust settling on his head. The officer led them out a side door. The parking lot looked like a diagram of safety. 2 cars. An exit. A bright stretch of street. The detective opened the rear door. Kirk's secret child climbed in first, then Rasheeda slid beside him. That was when the gray sedan rolled up fast and hard. Wrong angle, wrong speed. The detective saw it and moved before the thought fully formed. The sedan braked in front of their bumper. 2 doors opened. The men wore smiles that were not smiles. The detective's voice went calm. Lock, he said. Kirk's secret child flinched as the click sounded like a gunshot. One of the men raised his hands to shoulder height. We are here for the child, he said. We are his father's counsel. No, the detective replied. You are not. It all happened at once. A teacher shouted. A horn blared. The second man reached into his jacket. The detective drew and leveled his weapon. A patrol car roared around the corner like a miracle with a siren. The men hesitated. The moment broke. They turned, jumped back into the sedan, and peeled away, tires screaming. Kirk's secret child started to cry. Not loud, Just a sound like something folding? Rasheeda put her arms around him and said nothing. Sometimes comfort is the absence of words. Back at the safe house, Latrice arrived minutes later. When she saw her son, her knees gave. She caught herself on the door and gathered him up with both arms. Emotions ran high in a room that suddenly felt too small for so much love. She looked over his shoulder at Rasheeda. "Thank you," she said. The words were simple and heavy. "Sisters," Rasheeda replied. "We keep each other." News of the school parking lot incident spread within an hour. It did not matter that names were not printed. People knew a line had been crossed. The city tightened around the family like a circle of joined hands. Small restaurants posted signs that said, "We stand with truth." A muralist painted a bridge with the word "remember" on its span. Inside the precinct, the detective stared at a wall of names and drew lines of connection with black thread. One thread went to a judge. One thread went to a banker. One thread went to a charitable foundation that did a lot of good and even more hiding. That night, the network aired a follow-up. The host read a single viewer comment on air. The family was left divided. The message said, "But the city is not." He folded the paper. "We are watching," he added. Kirk Frost sat alone in the safehouse kitchen, a glass of water warming in his hand. He looked older in the quiet. He had called his lawyer and fired him. He had called the detective and offered a list of names that were not in the files. He had written a message to Kirk's secret child that he might not send for a long time. He had done everything a man could do after too much damage, which is to start walking through the wreckage with a broom and no excuses. Rasheeda stepped in and leaned against the doorframe. "You kept us alive tonight," she said. "You kept us honest," he replied. She nodded. "We are not done." "I know." Her phone buzzed. A new message from the same unknown number that had sent her to the pier. It contained 3 words. "Plan B moves." She showed it to the detective. He read it twice and then looked at her with a face that said both warning and respect. "They will try to change the story," he said. "Smear, confuse. Pull family into family until you forget which fight is which. Then we name the next move before they do," she said. "We tell the city what Plan B looks like." They did. They went on air the next morning and explained how disinformation works. How false documents appear just real enough to stain truth. How anonymous accounts shove doubt into feeds at 4 in the morning when people are most alone. They broke down the tactics with the same calm they used on the ledgers. And because they did, the lies landed softer when they came. For a week, the city lived in a strange new light. Arrests hit headlines that had once been real estate ads. A senator called for a committee and another called for patience. A pastor preached a sermon titled Visible. A teacher told her class that math saved a family. Fans stayed shocked, but the shock became focus. The family was left divided in some corners, united in others, and working every hour in between. Then the anonymous accounts began to whisper about Charlene. They posted an old photo. They hinted at a letter. They tried to pull mother against daughters until the house creaked. Charlene sat at the table and opened the real letter, the one she had saved. She slid it across to Rasheeda and "Read," she said, "and do not let them write me for you." It was a note from their father, long before the bridge, written in the same neat hand as the birth record. It did not apologize. It did not beg. It said only this: "If the paper ever finds you, believe each other first." Rasheeda folded the letter and put it back in the envelope like a sacred thing. Latrice wiped her face with the heel of her hand. Kirk Frost watched from the doorway, learning in real time what loyalty looks like. Night fell again. A quiet nobody trusted settled over the house. The detective sat awake in a chair by the window, badge in his pocket, radio on low. Somewhere in the city, the nameless interests were still moving. Somewhere closer, a man with a smooth smile sat in a car without plates and looked at a photo of a pier at sunrise. He tapped the image twice, put the phone down, and said to no one, "They think the ocean ends at the shore." In the small bedroom at the back of the safe house, Kirk's secret child slept with the baseball cap beside his pillow. Latrice watched him breathe for a long time, then stepped into the hall where Rasheeda waited. They did not speak. They just stood there. Sisters, the storm still in their clothes but not in their bones. In the kitchen, Kirk Frost opened the back door and let the night air in. He whispered one word into the dark, a vow that was both prayer and plan. Tomorrow. Morning broke over Atlanta City like a sigh after years of holding breath. The papers ran headlines that no one could ignore, the kind that redraw lines between power and conscience. The frost of fear was melting into talk, into questions, into the soft sound of people realizing they had been part of something bigger than gossip. Rasheeda watched from the safe house window, the news ticker crawling across every screen. Her name there not as scandal but as witness. It was strange and beautiful and heavy. Kirk Frost joined her, a mug in his hand. Eyes tired but awake. "They'll rebuild," he said. "People always do. So will we," she answered. "But not the same way." Down the hall, Latrice laughed softly as her son told Kendra Robinson a joke only children can invent, simple and perfect. Shirlene hummed in the kitchen, a tune older than regret. For the first time in months, no one was shouting, no one was hiding. They were still broken in places, but the pieces fit differently now, stronger in the cracks. The detective stopped by around noon. He carried a small box, unmarked. "Found this in the old archive," he said, setting it on the table. Inside was a photograph, faded but clear. Two men shaking hands in front of a docked boat named Truth, Rasheeda's father and Kirk Frost. Behind them, the water gleamed with early light. Taped to the back was a note in her father's handwriting. "Build something honest." She read it aloud. Silence followed, full of meaning. Kirk Frost nodded once. "Then that's the work," he said. "No more hiding, no more silence." Rasheeda looked at the camera crew that had been waiting quietly in the corner. The same team that had captured their first confession. "Set it up," she said. "We're not done talking." The light clicked on again, softer this time. She faced it like an old friend. "To everyone watching," she began, "you've heard our story. You've seen how deep lies can dig and how loud truth can sound when you finally stop whispering. But this isn't just about one family. This is about every person who's been told to stay quiet. Every secret that was kept for someone else's comfort. Every silence that grew teeth." She paused, letting the words breathe. "We spent months tearing through our own shame, thinking exposure would destroy us. But what destroyed us was pretending. Pretending to be fine, pretending to be normal, pretending to believe what we didn't. Once the pretending stopped, everything painful started, but everything real started too." She leaned closer, voice low and steady. "If you've been watching for entertainment, thank you for staying. If you've been watching because you see yourself in this, thank you for surviving. You don't have to carry secrets that eat you alive. Truth hurts, but it also heals. It gives you back your name." Behind her, Kirk Frost stepped into frame. He didn't speak at first, only looked at the floor like he was measuring distance between then and now. When he finally spoke, his voice was raw. "I spent half my life trying to build walls high enough to keep out the past. Turns out the only way to live is to open a door. If you've done wrong, face it. If you've hidden something, tell it. There's no peace in pretending." Latrice joined them next, her hand on her son's shoulder. "We can't rewrite what's gone," she said, "but we can decide what stays written. I want my boy to grow up in a place where honesty isn't treated like rebellion." Rasheeda nodded. "And I want you to help us build that place. Start by asking questions. Hold people accountable. Listen more than you shout. And when you share our story, share it for the right reason, to remind someone else that truth is a way out, not a weapon." She smiled faintly. "Tired but sure. Like, subscribe, comment yes. Do all of that if you want this story to keep reaching people. But more than that, think. Think about your own story. What would you change if you stopped being afraid? What part of your life is still waiting for the light?" The red light on the camera blinked once, almost like it understood. The feed rolled into a montage: streets waking up. Murals painted with the words, "Believe each other first." Children laughing under the same bridge that once symbolized death but now shimmered with new color. Music rose not triumphant, but patient, like rebuilding. Rasheeda's voice continued over the images. "To our viewers around the world, thank you for watching us break open. Thank you for not turning away when it got messy. Stories like ours don't end with applause. They end with choice. Yours." She took a breath and finished softly. "Share this, not for gossip but for growth. Let our mistakes be your warning, and our courage be your permission. Subscribe if you want more truth. Comment if you've ever carried silence. And remember, truth doesn't end a story, it starts it." The screen faded to black, leaving only text. This series is dedicated to those who speak even when their voice shakes. In the quiet afterward, the team sat together without speaking. Outside, the city hummed differently, lower, clearer, awake. Kirk Frost reached across the table and placed the photo of the docked boat between them. "So?" he said. "What now?" Rasheeda smiled, the kind of smile that means a life is about to begin again. "Now," she said, "we build something honest." And that was how the story closed, not with an ending, but with a beginning disguised as one. So to everyone watching, to everyone listening, if you felt something in this story, don't let it fade. Hit the like button, not just for us, but for every person still scared to speak. Drop a comment if you've ever hidden your own truth. And if you believe that silence ends where courage starts, subscribe, share, and stay tuned. This isn't just a channel. This is a reminder that no matter how deep the lies, the truth always finds a microphone. Stay with us. The next story is already on its way.